I'm the District 2 engineer in Lewiston. This is an issue with large modules that are being developed and built in Korea. They're shipped over to the United States. They take the Columbia River Seaport all the way down to the Port of Lewiston. And from there they're transported across, and the original plan was for these units that I'm going to talk about tonight were for those to be transported across US-12 to Montana and then on up into Canada. These particular loads now, if there's a change that in the plan of the shipper, and they're planning to haul these loads. These loads will be cut in half to meet the height restrictions on I-90, and they'll be hauled north on US-95 up to I-90 and I-90 across to Montana, and then on to their eventual location in Canada. And that's kind of a little background on the module project.
Okay.
I was here to give you a brief update and stand for any questions that you might have regarding the modules and the traffic control plan. Primarily traffic control plan and the permitting process that ITD does. So I'm going to give you a couple of facts here to work with to start with. The modules are currently located at the Port of Lewiston. They will be cut by Imperial Oil to a shipping height of 15 feet, 10-inch maximum. The overall width and length of these modules are not altered from what they originally were. The reduced height is necessary to clear vertical obstructions on the route on I-90. When done, there will be approximately 60 modules sent on US-95, with the largest load being 24 feet wide, 15 feet 10 inches high, 207 feet 11 inches long, including the truck and trailer. And the heaviest load will weigh 165,347 pounds, not including the truck and trailer weight. Transport is scheduled to be done between the hours of, and this may change, we're off from a draft traffic control plan that we've received from the carrier, which is Mammoet, which is, they're working, it's kind of a long process, but Mammoet is the transport company. They work for Fluor engineers who have been contracted by Imperial Oil. And the hours that they've shown for us is that they wanted to, their first submittal, they plan to run between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. The transport on US-95 would take 2 nights. It's planned in 2 segments. Segment 1 is from the Port of Lewiston to approximately the Latah-Benewah County line. That's scheduled to take about 6 hours to do. And the second segment runs from there up through our District 1 office. We'll be in charge of that, and it'll run from there up to around milepost 18 on I-90. Where they will be putting all of the modules in a location there to be able to further haul at a later date. So at this time they're just hauling up on US-95 to I-90, the plan they've given us. The traffic control is done in one of 2 ways, and this is according to the plan they've submitted to us for review. The first they refer to as, they call the park method, and that is road sections in which opposing traffic will not be affected, and the trailing or the northbound traffic that's behind it will be permitted to pass around the shipments virtually continually by a guided pilot car system. So when they're in there, when I talk about the plan in the various segments, they'll say the first segment is, when they say a park segment, they're talking about they're going to be traveling down the road. The opposing traffic, which would be the southbound traffic, would not have any impact to it, and only the northbound traffic would, and that would be continually being monitored around the trailer system itself. Their other method, which is called, they call the clear method. This is for 2-lane sections where opposing traffic will be stopped at a flagger station and allowed to pass the load at designated wide spots. Trailing traffic will be required to follow the load and be allowed to pass at the same wide locations. This is similar to the method that was done and proposed on US 12. So they'll have two different methods here because this US 95 has a lot of much wider sections than what we have on US 12. As a basic rundown from the Port of Lewiston to the Thorn Creek Road intersection, traffic control is planned to be done by the park method, which will be the continuous traffic that will run up until Thorn Creek Road. From Thorn Creek Road to the Latah County line, where we get into the 2-lane sections, and then there'll be 3 lanes and passing lane areas, is all done under their clear plan, which was what I'd mentioned earlier. Travel speed for their loads, according to their plan, will vary from 10 miles per hour on the steep grades, like Lewiston Hill, to up to 30 miles per hour in the flat terrain areas. They plan on having 2 Idaho State Police vehicles accompany the loads to handle traffic and emergency services coordination. Permit process is similar to, it's actually identical to the process we do for all of our permits for oversized loads. The carrier contacts our headquarters Boise office, Division of Motor Vehicles, which is located in Boise. They issue the permits. The permits are good for 2 days with an extension up to 5 days to travel. All the loads are required to be legalized, and that the axle loading has got to be the same as or lighter than what we allow or what we permit a commercial truck to haul. I think that's kind of the basics of it. I'd be certainly glad to hear some questions if you've got some questions for me.
Well, my primary question, as you might expect, is why the city of Moscow was not approached on this. That's something that's of serious concern to me. I get the information secondhand from our state legislator who emails me and said, hey, what's going on? So has ITD known about this for a while and not had a requirement to let the city, because I'm thinking about Gritman Medical Center, I'm thinking about the police and fire resources, I'm thinking about local government who may have some particular information about our overnight businesses, the service stations, the, Safeway gets its deliveries at night, those kinds of things. And I would like to have known about this, except second or third hand.
Well, Mayor, to answer your question, I think ITD's known about this for a total of about 3 weeks from today. We met with them, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, 2 members of my staff and 2 members of our staff from the District 1 office. And that's when they submitted their first traffic control plan for us to begin the review process. When we finish reviewing the traffic control plan, see if it meets ITD's requirements of it, then we'd certainly be talking to the local cities as we go through.
Okay, and then we did hear from an ITD representative of the possibility that loads could be moved as early as April 18th. Do you have a projected date if, in fact, these permits are approved? What would be the earliest? I
have heard nothing about the April 18th. I mean, if you can, that's news to me, Mayor.
Okay, and I won't drop that employee's name, but at my direction, the city supervisor contacted that individual and was provided that information.
If there's someone out of my Boise headquarters office, that wouldn't, they would be the ones that do the direct permitting. Okay. So they would know more about that permitting process as far as the date that they're planning on. But they can't move any of these loads until we approve the traffic control plan, and that hasn't occurred yet. Okay. And so it would be still a little premature, but that may be their plan date. I had not heard that date.
Okay. And then I'm certainly going to open it up to the council for their questions of you, but you did spark a couple of questions. Can you tell us what the milepost 18 is? You said this off of I-90, that's going to be the end point for storing these loads. What's up there? What's the nearest town?
Well, it's a commercial site that they'd be going to. I'm not familiar with the mileposts on I-90 to tell you where that goes to.
Okay.
What we do in District 2 is I cover the 5 counties, which go as our farthest north county is Latah County. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we work in coordination with our District 1 office out of Coeur d'Alene, right, who takes that from there forward. And so what I've got tonight is to talk about is the portion of that which is within a District
Sure.
2, which will be doing that approval for the traffic control. I do know the second segment does take off and go to I-90. There'll have to be a third segment for I-90 across.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of those numbers.
Okay, and then I also wanted to know, do you know what the stopping time is for one of these rigs doing 30 miles an hour? Because I know when they were the full-size loads, they were going to be going 5 to 10 miles an hour, and the videos I saw on the ITD website were showing people walking beside the loads, but clearly 30 miles an hour is a pretty good clip for a big, heavy load. How fast can they stop?
Well, they'll have pilot cars out in front of them, Mayor. So if anything is out in front that has to be done, they'll radio back and they'll slow down the speed to stop them.
Like a
There'll
deer?
be, I'm sorry?
Like a deer or something, you know?
Well, I suppose. I mean, a deer would probably not be a huge obstruction that you'd want to be hitting the brakes hard on a system like
Sure,
this,
or a
because
car
it could
pulling
be.
it.
Well, the cars now will be
Driveway.
completely controlled with a traffic control system.
Well, there are driveways and whatnot, you know.
Well, that's where the pilot car, advanced pilot cars, there'll be a couple of advanced pilot cars that work out in front of it. This is what we do pretty standard on all of our over-width permits.
Okay.
And they'll come through and be in advance. You've seen them where they'll have wide load signs ahead, and they go up a front. They make sure that no wide loads are trying to pass from the other direction that might be wider than 10 feet, normal wide stock loads. So, it's to coordinate that. But I don't know exactly how fastly they could stop it. Of course, it's the process would be to slow it down. The other loads, the reason they were going slower on US-12, they actually had faster speeds there as well, where they were in areas where they had flat areas. But probably the video clips you were looking at were in some of the curves,
Right.
where they disconnected and did a little bit of steering to get around the corners, which wouldn't be an issue in this area.
Well, my concerns are just like the side roads, the driveways, the side access points to this, and so whether you would have enough control staff to block each of those so we don't have.
They wouldn't have, there wouldn't be any people blocking driveway approaches. The rules of the road would still apply, so if someone were to come up to their driveway approach and want to turn to come out, and they see a vehicle coming at them, it'd be just like what you currently have now. You have to look and yield the right-of-way to the vehicle coming that way. So if they're pilot cars and those are within that range of what it is, they'd have to wait until the vehicle went by to be able to make their turn out there, out of any private driveway.